After I was reborn, I was surprised to find that the gentle gentleman had another face. He is mean, greedy, twisted, and jealous, in order to marry me. Step by step, the organs are exhausted. The day the truth was revealed, I trembled and asked, "What about you? Have you ever had a sincere heart for me?" He took my hand and put it to his chest and chuckled nonchalantly. "Dig it out and show it to Gigi, okay?" I never thought that the husband who had been treated coldly by me would be pierced through the heart by 10,000 arrows in order to save me. His back was full of arrows, but he kept me intact in his arms. "Why are you here?" I looked at him at a loss. Tears falling from my eyes, he smiled, and was about to open his mouth when he coughed up a mouthful of blood. He gasped for a moment before he whispered to Gigi, "I want you to remember me for the rest of my life." When I opened my eyes again, I realized that I had been reborn. At this moment, Pei Ziheng was whispering in my ear, "Gigi, tell him quickly, let him not be delusional, you will not marry him." I hadn't recovered from the shock of rebirth, and I just stared blankly at the person in front of me. In the wind and snow, Xiao Shuo was standing in front of me intact at the moment. Tears rolled down my face, and I muttered, "Xiao Shuo." The biting cold wind cut his face, giving reality to this absurd moment of rebirth. I remember. This is the winter solstice night of the year I was assigned to marry Xiao Shuo. Every year on the night of the winter solstice, the emperor will hold a family banquet in Wangxian Tower to enjoy with the people. That year, Xiao Shuo's carriage broke down on the way to come. He was half an hour late, and was punished by the emperor to stand downstairs, and the culprit of all this is me. In the last life, I was unwilling to marry Xiao Shuo, so I asked Pei Ziheng, who had been friends with me since childhood, to be angry for me. So he found a way to buy off Xiao Shuo's groom, and deliberately let Xiao Shuo's carriage break down halfway. Pei Ziheng invited credit in front of me. Let him be punished for standing with a little trick. How about it? Is Gigi happy? I knocked on the table irritably. What's the use? I don't have to marry him yet. Did you talk to him about it? Heaven and earth conscience. Not only did I say it, I also threatened him. Just because I embarrassed him several times, the prince's brother reprimanded me, telling me not to go too far. Pei Ziheng was unconvinced, so he still refuses to give up. I asked with a frown, who knows, could it be that he has fantasies about Gigi? Pei Ziheng narrowed his eyes. If that's the case, it's better for Gigi to go down and tell him clearly in person and teach him to die. That's a good idea. I don't know who chimed in. And the sons and nobles of the family who were still enjoying the snow all gathered around, so they could prepare to watch the excitement. Seeing that everyone was coaxing, Pei Ziheng grabbed an oil paper umbrella and immediately pulled me downstairs. According to Pei Ziheng's idea, I should take a cup of hot tea, throw it on Xiao Shuo's head, and then tell him viciously, "Don't be a toad who wants to eat swan meat. I will never marry him." But there was a little accident, and I was reborn. Xiao Shuo's eyelashes were covered with snow. I couldn't stand it for a while in such a cold weather, but he stood here all night because of my fault in the previous life. In fact, the emperor had already left, but no one told Xiao Shuo. He stood until midnight and left until all the lights in Wangxian Tower were extinguished. I heard that after I went back, I burned for 3 days and 3 nights. What was I thinking? I'm wondering if he keeps getting sick and can't get up. I won't have to get married to Gigi. Why are you stunned? Speak quickly. Pei Ziheng stood beside me with an umbrella and urged in a loud voice. I took a half step forward, choked up and spoke. Xiao Shuo, are you cold? Xiao Shuo's eyelashes trembled. His gaze swept over the teacup in my hand, and a trace of embarrassment swept across his face, seeing that he didn't answer. I snatched the umbrella in Pei Ziheng's hand and lifted it to the top of his head with one hand to cover the wind and snow for a moment. With the other hand, he sent the hot tea over. Xiao, Third Highness, would you like a cup of tea? Xiao Shuo looked at me with heavy eyes, and when he saw me stubbornly holding the teacup, he smiled self-deprecatingly, took the teacup, and poured it on his clothes in a daze. In this way, are Miss Meng and Pei Shizhi satisfied? No, I was about to explain. But I saw Xiao Shua turn his head and close his eyes, still not satisfied. Then you, how else do you want to humiliate me? I froze in place, opened my mouth, but couldn't say a word. No wonder he misunderstood me so much. Once upon a time. I really can't stand him. I am the daughter of the princess, and my father and brother hold important positions in the court. Even if the unfavored princess sees me, she must be polite and give 3 points. I was originally a popular candidate for the crown princess, but I accidentally fell into the water at the Lotus banquet and was rescued by the third Prince Xiao Shua. For the sake of the reputation of the state and the royal family, the queen can only give us a marriage. The prince's elder brother is gentlemanly and square, and he is the object of admiration of everyone in Beijing. Xiao Shua is just a night of absurdity after the saints drinking. And the child of the girl in the same palace is not as good as a favored minion. Marry him. I am naturally unwilling. I was depressed, saying that I was not sick, so I only wrote a letter to the prince and cried. The next day, the prince asked Pei Ziheng to come and see me. Pei Ziheng looked angrier than me. I don't look at what kind of goods I have, and I dare to rob people with the prince's brother. Gigi, don't be afraid. The prince's brother said that the queen's marriage is not ironclad. If the third prince loses his virtue, he can also withdraw from the marriage. I'll help you, Xiao Pei. I covered the quilt and said in a muffled voice, after all, he saved me. If you hurt him, won't you make me revenge you? Gigi, you don't understand. Where is he here to save you? The prince's brother said that he came from a humble background and wanted the help of the Guogong mansion, so he deliberately bribed someone to push you into the water. And he came to the hero to save the beauty again, forcing my aunt to have to marry you. Then don't mess around, just find an opportunity to help me make it clear to him that I don't want to marry him. But where can Pei Ziheng listen? He is the queen's nephew and the prince's cousin. Later, I learned that when I was recuperating from my illness, Pei Ziheng publicly humiliated Xiao Shua several times in the name of being angry for me. It wasn't until the prince and my brother took turns beating him that he relented. However, he is known in Beijing, and I don't want to marry. I was reprimanded by my brother for this. After I got well, my brother asked me to thank Xiao Shua, and Pei Ziheng volunteered to accompany me. I brought most of my belongings, thousands of acres of fertile land, a number of shop title deeds, and I wanted to move people with wealth and persuade him to quit his family, who knew that Xiao Shua's attitude was very cold. I felt humiliated, and couldn't help but be mean. If your highness wants to marry me, first repair your mansion. I don't want to marry and live worse than the descendants of the Guogong mansion. Pei Ziheng even scolded on the spot. What are you? Don't be embarrassed, Xiao Pei. I scolded Pei Ziheng. But a thank you ended up unhappily. On the night of marriage, after Xiao Shua lifted his hijab, he didn't even go to the study without even giving a wedding ceremony. Since then, we have respected each other like ice. And we have not had a roundhouse for 3 years, but in fact, if you think about it carefully, in my previous life, except for his cold attitude towards me, he never treated me harshly in other aspects. The house has been renovated of food, clothing, housing and transportation, everywhere to my heart. My days in the Three Princes mansion were more comfortable than at home. The picture of my previous life appeared repeatedly. I looked up at Xiao Shua, and I wanted to speak several times but couldn't help choking. Seeing that I didn't speak, Pei Ziheng snorted coldly. Satisfied? How can it be satisfied? Gigi is thin-skinned and can't speak, but you should be able to see that Gigi is unwilling to marry you. I only came back to my senses at this moment, and hurriedly scolded, Xiao Pei, don't talk nonsense. Xiao Shua's gaze fell on my face, as deep as an abyss. I met his dark eyes, stunned for a moment, and involuntarily reached out to help him dust off the snow on his shoulder, and said in a low voice, I heard that His Highness's carriage has broken down. If your highness doesn't dislike it, the car from the Guogong mansion can send you home. Pei Ziheng's eyes widened, and he looked surprised. Gigi, what are you talking about? You want to go back with him? I wrecked his carriage to give you a vent. It's not for him to ride in your car. He knows it. I sighed. Xiao Pei, It was me who was wrong in the past, and I didn't recognize my own mind. In the future, you are not allowed to do anything wrong in the name of being angry with me. I'm going to marry His Highness soon, and if you embarrass him, you'll embarrass me. Pei Ziheng's eyes widened, and he said in a loud voice, Gigi, you're confused. Do you want to hear what you're saying? As soon as he shouted, the eyes of the nobles on the Wangxian Tower all looked over. I said, I grabbed Xiao Shua, raised my hand that was intertwined with his 10 fingers, and said word by word, I have already made a marriage with His Royal Highness, and whoever makes him unhappy will make me unhappy. After that, he ignored everyone's eyes, pulled Xiao Shua, and walked towards my carriage. It was freezing outside, but it was warm in the carriage. The carriage of the Guogong mansion is naturally much more luxurious than the carriage of Xiao Shua, the down-and-out prince. As soon as Xiao Shua got into the car, he withdrew his hand from my hand. I looked up at him, but he turned his head away from me. I used to think that he was disgusted with me, but now that I think about it, maybe it is shy. The snow turned into water, wetting the hair around his sideburns. He had a faint dark blue under his eyes. His face was pale, and he had coughed several times in a low voice. My heart was in a twitch, and I couldn't help but ask, Are you still cold? Xiao Shua lowered his eyes and said in a difficult tone, Miss Meng, there are no outsiders here, so there is no need to. It's a show. I didn't react for a moment. Drama? What kind of drama? Isn't it for the prince's marriage? He was a little tired between his eyebrows and eyes. The prince is married to the daughter of the Shang family. You are unhappy, and you deliberately show favor to me and be angry with him. So that's what he thought. Everyone said that I was happy with the prince. And I never thought about it before. I just think that the prince treats me well. If I have to get married, it is better to be the crown princess than to marry someone I don't know. Now that I have relived my life, I know that the prince is good to everyone. I was about to explain, but the carriage stopped at the entrance of the prince's mansion. I had no choice but to get out of the carriage, and Xiao Shua followed. Thank you, Miss Meng, for giving me a ride. He thought I was just giving him a ride. The snow was heavy in the middle of the night, and his figure looked particularly sharp in the wind and snow. Although the Guogong mansion is not far from the Three Princes' mansion, he has been punished for standing all night. And he has not entered a drop of water. I tugged at his sleeve. You're not going to walk back by yourself, are you? He quietly pulled out his sleeve and took a step back. Seeing his defensive posture, my heart was sour. And I knew that he couldn't remember, so I could only speak, naturally. I want the coachman to send His Highness back to the palace. There was already a maid waiting for me at the gate of the Guogong mansion with a big hat and a soup woman. And I stuffed it into him. It's snowing in the middle of the night. Don't get cold, I admonished with red eyes. His lips twitched, and he said in a hoarse voice for a while, Thank you, Miss Meng, you and I have made a marriage. Your Highness can call me Gigi, and if I want to say thank you, I should thank Your Highness. Thank you for sacrificing your life to protect me in your last life, Gigi. I want you to remember me for the rest of my life. I woke up from a nightmare, and there was a faint smell of bitter cypress in the air. When the maid heard the commotion, she came in and asked, Today, on the birthday of His Royal Highness the Prince, is the girl going to rise? Okay, after the winter solstice. It is the prince's birthday. In previous years, on this day, I would get up early to dress up and bring gifts to the East Palace to celebrate my birthday. The Crown Prince will prepare a family banquet and have a small gathering with a few close sons and nobles. This year, I asked someone to prepare a gift early, but I myself was going to the Three Princes' mansion, because today is also Xiao Shua's birthday. In my last life, I was married to him in the 3rd year. And I learned that his birthday was actually the same day as the Crown Prince. I remember that day when the snow was falling heavily. The guards of the prince's mansion came early to spread the word, saying that the prince was sick and had a poor appetite, and he missed the longevity noodles I made, so he specially sent a mother-in-law to ask me for advice. Although I was confused, I taught the mother-in-law seriously, and thought that the mother-in-law still needed to practice for some time. Since it was the prince's birthday today, I personally made a bowl of noodles for the guards to take back. In the afternoon, Xiao Shua rarely broke into my yard. At that time, I was practicing calligraphy, and when I saw that his face was slightly red, and he was full of alcohol, I couldn't help frowning. This person was already weak. And he was drunk and running around in winter. I was afraid that he didn't want to get sick. Xiao Shua saw me frowning. His eyes were gloomy, and he suddenly grabbed my wrist. Gigi, I also want to eat show noodles. He has always been cold, and it is rare to show such a stubborn appearance. I looked at him with some confusion, and he looked at me for a long time, slowly let go of his hand, took 2 steps back, and smiled self-deprecatingly. I'm drunk, don't pay attention to me. With that, he stumbled away again. When I woke up the next day, I heard that he had committed an old illness last night, and called the imperial doctor in the middle of the night. I got up to see him, and he was sleeping, but not very well. I was about to reach out to test the temperature of his forehead, but he grabbed my wrist and couldn't break free. He frowned, as if he was talking in a dream, and I listened closely, and he was saying, Gigi, don't go. I was a little at a loss. So I turned around and called the little guy who was following him to ask, what's the matter? Why did your highness drink so much wine yesterday? The little guy bowed his head and said silently, your highness didn't allow the servants to say it. But yesterday was actually your highness's birthday. My heart was shocked, and I instantly understood the cause and effect. He has been raised in the palace since he was a child, and he is not taken seriously. And he collided with the prince on his birthday. I am afraid that no one has ever given him a good birthday. On his birthday, I personally cooked a bowl of show noodles for the prince. A wave of guilt welled up in my heart. In the past 3 years, he has not treated me harshly, and in many places he can even be called considerate. It's only because he always avoids me and has a cold attitude that I often ignore his goodness, but in my heart I accept his affection. Xiao Shua woke up on the 3rd day. I personally fed him water, and brought out the warm longevity noodles. Although this year's birthday has passed, I will remember it in the future. Unfortunately, it was my last birthday with him, and it wasn't long before he was pierced through my heart by 1,000 arrows to save me. Xiao Shua was surprised by my visit. Why is Miss Meng here? I raised a smile at him. Naturally, I'm here to celebrate His Highness's birthday. Xiao Shua was even more stunned. He used to be cold and lonely like a jade carving, but now he looks stunned and has a little more popularity. The more sad I felt. Isn't your highness going to invite me in? Xiao Shua reacted when he heard this, and turned sideways to welcome me in. I handed him the food box in my hand. I got up in the morning and personally cooked show noodles and dim sum for His Highness, which should still be hot. I wish His Highness a safe and healthy year. Xiao Shua lowered his eyes and looked at the food box for a long time before he spoke. Bother to inquire about my birthday, and cook for me personally. Miss Meng is here for Pei Shizi's business, right? This time it was my turn to be stunned. What does this have to do with Pei Ziheng? Xiao Shua's eyebrows were full of mockery. I took Miss Meng's wishes, and told Pei Shizi that the bet was not counted. Bet? I thought about it carefully. And suddenly it occurred to me that I had heard of such a thing. At this time in his previous life, Pei Ziheng seemed to have challenged Xiao Shua at the banquet and forced Xiao Shua to compete with him. Pei Ziheng boasted that if he lost, he would shave his home. Later, Pei Ziheng really lost, and was pressed by his family to come to the Three Princes mansion to apologize, and only then did he get the matter over. Pei Ziheng became a laughingstock in Beijing for a while, and he didn't dare to go out for a while. So Xiao Shua thought that I was sending such a gift today to intercede for Pei Ziheng. Although I have been close to Xiao Pei since childhood, I have never separated from Meng, and we have done a lot of bastard things together. But since I got older, and he followed the prince in the saddle, we have come and gone much less. What's more, if he did something wrong, it was naturally the aftermath of the family. How could it be my turn to intercede? I didn't know why Xiao Shua made this association for a while, but seeing Xiao Shua putting on a gesture of sending off guests, I hurriedly stopped him. This has nothing to do with Xiao Pei. I inquired about your birthday and cooked for you, just because. Xiao Shua raised his eyebrows. as if to see what convincing reasons I was going to make. I lost my mother when I was a child, and my brother never held me back. Therefore, although I have some daughters, they are not very reserved. I gritted my teeth and confessed, "It's because I like you." Xiao Shua's eyes flickered, and he quickly calmed down again. He closed his eyes and said hatefully, "You can go out for Pei Ziheng's sake." He didn't believe it. Come to think of it, Pei Ziheng embarrassed him in every way because of me before, except for the winter solstice night. I didn't show closeness to him before, and it was understandable that he didn't believe it, but the first time I confessed to someone, I returned home. And I was really unhappy in my heart, and I was born of evil for a while. I stepped forward, grabbed his shirt, forced him to lower his head, and said viciously, "I said that it has nothing to do with Pei Ziheng." Then, without waiting for him to react, she looked up and kissed him on the lips. Xiao Shua's eyes widened, and then he quickly pulled me away. He rolled his Adam's apple, took a deep breath, and scolded in a deep voice, "Do you know what you're doing?" When I saw him like this, my heart was a little moved. I didn't think it before, but today I found out that he was born so handsome. The starry eyebrows and sword eyes, the face is like a crown of jade, and he stands there coldly, with a romantic temperament. For a while, he compared all the men in Beijing. If it weren't for the misunderstandings before, we should have raised our eyebrows in the previous life. Thinking of this, I feel a little sad. He treated me very affectionately in the previous life. But now he refuses to believe me. I was happy for a while, aggrieved for a while, and tears gradually filled my eyes. What are you crying about?" Xiao Shua looked at me in a daze, raised his hand to help me wipe my tears, but finally put it down again. I knew that freezing 3 feet was not a day's cold, so I could only turn my face away and wipe a handful of tears. "Since your highness doesn't believe me, I will tell. First, say it again. Again, I will believe you." His voice was extremely low, as if he was holding something down. "What?" I lifted up my eyes to him, and suddenly my soul was blessed. My heart is pleased. Before he finished speaking, a hand grabbed the back of my neck, and I was taken into my arms by Xiao Shua. The scorching smell of bitter cypress engulfed me. This time, it was my turn to widen my eyes. In my previous life, Xiao Shua and I never had a roundhouse, and the most transgressive move was just a hug. Although I also peeked at the fire avoidance map, I finally felt shallow on paper. I didn't know. It turned out that just kissing can make people dizzy, blushing and weak. I climbed on Xiao Shua's shoulder, and I couldn't stand several times. I don't know how long it took for him to finally let me go. I took a step back and leaned against the corner of the table with apprehension, looking at him in confusion. Xiao Shua's eyes were heavy, and there was still a desire in his voice that had not faded. He said, "Gigi, you shouldn't have come to provoke me. I was busy going to a banquet in the first month, and I was sick again. And I didn't even find a chance to meet Xiao Shua again, but he would bring something small from time to time, and it seemed like he had a good idea with me. Whenever I want something, I get it in less than 2 days. What's even more rare is that the things he picked, the piles and piles, are very much to my liking. Even the dim sum I sent is my favorite picking." In a blink of an eye, it was the Shangyuan Lantern Festival, and I was in good health, so I asked Xiao Shua to meet at Wangxian Tower. Xiao Shua wanted to go to the palace banquet first. I went to Wangxian Tower early, picked a good position, sat and drank tea and waited for him. As soon as he sat down, Pei Ziheng came over angrily and sat opposite me. "Gigi, didn't you get my post?" I sighed. And I only realized that the misunderstanding between me and Xiao Shua was inseparable from Xiao Pei. But I know that he has no bad intentions. But he has been used as a gun by the prince, and in the end his family was ruined. Thinking of the friendship since childhood, I decided to persuade him. I took a sip of tea and replied slowly, "Didn't you get my reply? I made an appointment with someone tonight." "Who did you date?" "Xiao Shua." Pei Ziheng stared at me. "Do you really want to marry him?" "If you don't want to, I'll go into the palace tonight and beg my aunt, and I'll fight for." "Spelling what?" "You have no fame, you don't inherit the title, you are the second ancestor of the family. Can you still let the Queen Mother take back her life?" Peiju looked at me in disbelief, revealing a hurt expression. Gigi, why do you say that about me? Am I not right? If I were you, study hard, and don't spend your time with a bunch of people all day long. I snorted coldly. Besides, I didn't say I didn't want to marry the third prince. You, Pei Ziheng pointed at me, trembling with anger. You forgot about the prince's brother so quickly. I raised an eyebrow at him. I never said I liked the prince, and I won't say that anymore. Pei Ziheng was stunned for a moment. No, don't like the prince's brother anymore. There were so many good men in the world, so why did you marry him? Because his royal highness reads a lot. I like him as a gentle and elegant son. Pei Ziheng's eyes were angry, and he snorted coldly. After tonight, he will be ruined, and you won't think he's good anymore. I frowned. Tonight, what did you do? Pei Ziheng turned his head in anger and didn't look at me. Tonight, palace banquet. If they want to ruin their reputation at the palace banquet, do they want to drug Xiao Shua? Pei Ziheng didn't have that much ability to do it in the palace. Most of them heard something. I jerked my eyes up. The prince drugged him. No. Xiao Shua is very cautious about what he enters, and he is not so easy to be drugged, unless, Pei Ziheng sneered, thanks to Gigi. I knocked over the teacup in an instant. In the afternoon, I sent someone to send Xiao Shua a pot of my own winter wine, and I wrote the 3 words snow fragrance on the jug, because he was thinking about the date in the evening. He didn't pay attention to whether the maid came back to her life, if someone took the maid directly to the palace banquet. When Xiao Shua saw someone, he thought that I sent it, so naturally he would not be wary of me. Thinking of this, I immediately got up and ran downstairs, ready to enter the palace. Pei Ziheng followed and stretched out his hand to stop me. Gigi, he has no power. No power, and is not favored, and he is an idle prince after breaking the sky. Why did you choose him? I pushed Pei Ziheng's hand away, turned over on the horse, and looked at him condescendingly. Xiao Pei. I thought I had made it clear enough on the day of the winter solstice. Whoever is against him is against me. If something happens to him tonight, you and I will no longer be friends. Also, don't get involved in the prince's affairs. After speaking, without waiting for Pei Ziheng to reply, I galloped away on horseback. Since I was a child, I have been able to enter and leave the palace freely, and I have not encountered any obstacles along the way. When I got to the palace banquet, Xiao Shua was no longer here. After a moment's thought, I quickly ran towards the imperial garden, where there were several lofts where to rest. Time is pressing, and it will definitely be too late to find one by one. Calm down. I took a deep breath and looked down to take a closer look at the footprints on the ground. I soon noticed that the footprints on the road to Hanbai Pavilion were a little messy, and I quickly ran towards Hanbai Pavilion. On the way, I passed by a rockery, and a hand suddenly stretched out from the rockery to grab me. The world swirled, and I fell into a hot embrace. My cold hair stood on end, and I was about to scream, but I heard a low warning. Don't make a sound. It was Xiao Shua's voice. I was relieved that a big rock had fallen in my heart. Xiao Shua grabbed my waist with one hand from behind and covered my mouth with the other. His chin rested on my neck socket, and a heavy wheezing sound came from my ears. The burning breath almost burned the base of my ear. Soon there was a cacophony, and someone rushed over and kicked open the door of the Hanbai Pavilion, screaming, "Higairon, why are you here?" I looked through the cracks in the rockery and finally understood what the prince was going to do. The unfavored prince and the noblemen who are in the limelight lose their morality after drinking and mess up the harem, in addition to Xiao Shua, and in addition to the nobles who annoyed the queen. They also asked me to dissolve the marriage contract, and when the princelings casually asked me to marry me, the Guogong mansion became the prince's help again, which is really killing 3 birds with 1 stone. The prince's plan is really vicious. I broke out in a cold sweat. I didn't expect the prince to start shooting at him so soon. I remember that in the previous life, he only made a move after the prince got married. Is it because of my rebirth that it was brought forward? No, it may also be because I didn't pay attention to Xiao Shua at that time. Perhaps, he was assassinated by the prince before he got married, but I don't know. In short, I completely miscalculated the situation. And because of my mistakes, I was almost about to lose Xiao Shuo again. I can't wait. I have to tell him everything right away so that he can take precautions as soon as possible. The person behind him suddenly sneered as soon as Gigi came. She went straight to Hanbai attic. Did she already know that something would happen to me? I didn't win the trick. Isn't Gigi disappointed? I've never heard Xiao Shuo speak in such a tone, although Xiao Shuo has a cold temperament. He has always been gentle when he talks to me, occasionally gaffes, and more self-deprecating, and at this moment, there was an inexplicable madness in his laughter, which made me feel a chill down my spine. He must have misunderstood me and thought that I was in the same league as the prince. I was in a hurry to explain, but he pointed at the acupoint, and I couldn't speak or move for a while. He took me by his arms, and after a few ups and downs between the palace walls, he took a shortcut and left the palace. For the first time, I knew that he was so good at light work. After getting into the carriage, he lost some strength, but he still hugged me tightly and didn't let go. He was horribly hot, trembling as he tried his best to suppress his desires. A hot hand stroked the side of my face and rubbed my calloused thumb against my jaw. My mind went blank and my whole body stiffened. His breathing grew heavier and heavier, like a hungry beast of prey. Gasping violently around my neck, Gigi, he called my name repeatedly, as if he wanted to crush my name between his lips and teeth. Suddenly, he shoved me out of the way and rolled into the corner of the carriage. Before I could react, I saw a flash of cold light, and he took out a dagger out of nowhere and slashed at his arm. He closed his eyes, then opened them again, his eyes regaining some clarity. He curled the corners of his mouth self-deprecatingly, gasping and struggling to speak. Gigi, look, even if you treat me like this, I still can't bear to hurt you. Holding hands on the night of the winter solstice, taking the initiative to kiss on birthday, sending wine on the Shangyuan festival. Gigi in order to withdraw from the family, but it is really step by step, and the mechanism is exhausted. He looked at me for a long time, his eyes full of pain and confusion, and suddenly, as if he had made a major decision, he said, well, I'll fulfill you. I'll find a way to quit my family, so Gigi doesn't have to bother anymore. What is a resignation? I don't want to quit my family. I stared wide-eyed and shed tears, and looked at him pitifully, hoping that he could unlock the acupuncture points for me and listen to my explanation. But he let out a low gasp and slashed himself again. Gigi, don't look at me like that. I'm afraid I won't be able to help it. His eyes didn't look clear, and the words in his mouth were turned upside down. I know you're unwilling, but I'm always thinking about what if you get to know me better. It's me. It's delusional. Don't cry. I'm going to make you happy. Xiao Shuo put me at the gate of the Guogong mansion and left immediately. The little maid at the door saw that I couldn't move, so she was so frightened that she rushed up, and my acupuncture points automatically unlocked after half a cup of tea. Because I had blood on my body, and I came back so weird, I finally alarmed my brother. I was anxious, and I was worried about Xiao Shuo's situation, so I didn't know where to start, and I was choked up and speechless for a while. Instead, the elder brother left and turned his head to ask the maid about the situation at that time, and then thought for a moment and asked, is it related to the third prince? I nodded, as if I had finally found an exit. Brother, I don't want to quit my family. I'm going to look for him. He's bleeding a lot. Brother, and soothed Gigi. Don't worry. I'll take the doctor to go there in person right away. You change your clothes, drink a bowl of soothing tea, and rest first. I grabbed my brother's sleeve and said with red eyes, Brother, I won't quit. My brother gave me a strange look. Okay, wait until I get back. I felt that something was wrong, but my mind was so chaotic that I couldn't think about it for a while. My brother came back at dawn, and I didn't sleep all night. When I heard that he was coming back, I immediately went to look for him. Brother, how is he? The elder brother's face was a little serious. Gigi, you tell me what happened last night. I was stunned for a moment, and quickly explained the matter. So this drugging thing has nothing to do with you. You just guessed that the prince was going to do it, so you went into the palace to save people. I nodded. My brother smiled suddenly. he's kind to you. I don't want to hurt you a point if I misunderstand it like this, I frowned, finally knowing where the strangeness came from. It's the attitude of the elder brother. Xiao Shuo is not welcomed, he has no power and no power, even Pei Ziheng dares to call him around. My brother is in a high position, why did he immediately bring someone over last night when he heard that the third prince had something brother attaches so much importance to? My brother is with him, what deal was struck? I asked. My brother looked at me in surprise. Gigi is much smarter than I thought. Since you guessed it, I won't hide it from you. The emperor is very old, and the three princes are standing in the Guogong mansion. How come? I was a little incredulous. But on second thought, it was actually the best choice. Among the adult princes, the prince is humble and gentlemanly on the surface, but behind the scenes, he is insidious and cunning, and he is unkind, in the last life, because I knew his secret. He wanted to kill me, completely ignoring our friendship for many years. The second prince was stubborn and self-serving, and his mother's family was very incompatible with the Guogong mansion in the court. No matter who they end up with, the military power in their father's hands will become a piece of their heart, and the Guogong mansion will definitely be a thorn in their side at that time. The three princes have no holy grace. The foreign family is weak, and there is no foundation. So it is best to take care of it. It was the third prince who took the initiative to come to the door. He was obscure, dormant for many years, and his heart was strong, which impressed me, and he is very sincere. Otherwise the government would not have agreed to this marriage. What sincerity? Have you ever been in his study? The elder brother suddenly asked without a clue. I shook my head. Although I was at ease in his house in my previous life, the study was an absolute forbidden area, and I was not allowed to enter. The elder brother smiled meaningfully. When you get married, go and see for yourself. That, did he mention the divorce to his brother? I don't care about the study, I just care about it. I mentioned it, the elder brother said slowly. He said, I don't want to make things difficult for you, so that you will not be happy. I'll go and explain it to him. I'm about to run out with my skirt in my hand. Come back. My brother grabbed me and scolded. What about your young lady's reserve? My fiancé is gone. What do I want to be reserved? Nonsense. He still has no poison left. What are you going to do? The elder brother didn't know what to think, and sneered. Some people want to separate. But the Guogong mansion doesn't let people get their wish, so you will stay at home obediently to get married during this time. And you are not allowed to go anywhere before you get married. I'm probably the woman I hate to marry the most in this dynasty, counting the days at home every day. I can't wait to marry Xiao Shuo's mansion immediately. 10 days later, I was sitting in the wedding room wearing a phoenix crown and a xiaxia curtain, and my mind was full of thoughts. I don't know what happened to the injury on his arm, but after a while, I should explain the events of that night or drink a glass of wine first. After waiting for a long time, he didn't wait for Xiao Shuo, but he waited for the maid in his house first. Your Highness has instructed us to remove the wedding dress and hairpin ring for the princess. I was in a trance, and suddenly remembered that it was the same in my previous life. He called someone early to help me remove my heavy wedding dress and hairpin ring, so that I could rest first, but I thought he wanted to humiliate me, so he didn't want to take my hijab. He didn't want to drink with me. He didn't want to roundhouse. I angrily threw the two maids out and sat down on the bed with my back straight. When he came to lift the hijab, he saw my angry eyes. As if he had been stung, he turned his face away and said, You're tired today, take a good rest. After saying that, he stumbled away. Now that I think about it, it was all because I was bewitched by the prince and Pei Ziheng, and I had too deep a prejudice against him, which led to all kinds of misunderstandings. 2 maids helped me unload my burden, and kindly brought me snacks and hot tea. My heart is sore and astringent. Did he arrange it for me so meticulously and thoughtfully in his previous life? I covered my eyes, endured, and tears still fell, when Xiao Shuo came in. He bumped into me and ate snacks while crying. I looked up at him, a bite of snack choked in my throat, and tears fell even harder. He retreated left and right, stood at the door from afar, and hurriedly said, Time is in a hurry. I have to get married first. But I won't break my promise to you, and I'll set you free as soon as possible. You rest early." After saying that, he didn't wait for me to react, turned around and left. I finally swallowed the dim sum and hurriedly stopped him. "Xiao Shua, you wait." Who knew that this man slipped faster than a rabbit and was gone? "You can't. Wait until I'm done." I was crying uncontrollably, but at this moment I was so angry that I held my forehead. Daily update pushpin WeChat, Cure 111. In my previous life, I found out that Xiao Shua's friendship was so late, and it had something to do with his temperament. I don't know how every time something happens to me, he is in a mess. I like it so much. But I always have to avoid me like a snake and scorpion. Leave me alone in an empty house for 3 years. Now I've cried and cried, and I've eaten enough. I stood up and clapped my hands, and said in my heart that I would solve the misunderstanding tonight. And round the room, I put on a big hat, carried a lamp, and walked towards the study. The study was lit up, and Xiao Shua's silhouette was reflected on the window lattice. I went up and knocked on the door. Xiao Shua asked coldly, "Who?" A salutation circled the tips of my lips and teeth, but finally I didn't shout, "It's me." The room was suddenly quiet, and after a while, Xiao Shua's somewhat flustered voice came, "It's so late, why don't you rest? The spring cold is steep, and I am only wearing a middle coat in the big air, and I am shivering a little from the cold. Let me go in first, it's cold outside," I asked, shuddering. There was a sigh from inside the room. The door opened, and a hand pulled me into the study. Before I could see it, a piece of red silk covered my eyes. I reached out to pick it up, but was grabbed by Xiao Shua. "Don't pick it. The study is important, and you are not allowed to come without permission in the future." Xiao Shua's voice was a little annoyed. What's the secret in the study that deserves him to murder me like this? I bowed my head and muffled, "Why are you so fierce?" Xiao Shua put a soup woman in my hand, led me to sit on the couch, and slowed down his voice. "Is there anything you have to do with me?" I couldn't see him, so I could only tilt my head in the direction of his voice. "I'll explain to you that I didn't give the medicine for the Shangyuan festival." "I know, Brother Ling told me." "You know, then why are you so cold to me?" Most likely the prince or Paizi Heng told him something. This was the case in the previous life. On the day of the wedding, the prince came to congratulate me and said a lot of good things about me. What Gigi looks willful, but is actually extremely well behaved in front of people close to him. Now that I think about it, I tell him openly and secretly that I am cold in front of Xiao Shua, but I don't regard him as a close person. I was about to open my mouth to ask if the prince had said something again, but Xiao Shua had already opened his mouth to drive people away. "Is there anything else?" And I hurriedly spoke, If you don't go back to the room, I have to come to you." "Gigi, do you really want to have sex with me?" Xiao Shua's voice was even calmer. "What's really fake?" I stood up abruptly and stepped forward to Xiao Shua. "What do you mean? Are you going to give up on me?" "Gigi, have you really figured it out?" Xiao Shua leaned back slightly, his expression even more cold and hard. I said I thought it clearly, but you didn't believe it. "Xiao Shua, you always don't believe me. I can only prove it to you." Without waiting for him to reply, I touched his belt, tore it open, and a cold bitter cypress aroma came. Xiao Shua grabbed my hand violently, his whole body tense. "Meng Hanji, I'll give you one last chance. Get out of here." "Xiao Shua." I knelt on one leg on the couch and leaned closer to him. "I really don't want to miss it with you again." In the next second, Xiao Shua pressed me on the couch, grabbed my 2 wrists with one hand and raised them above my head, and bullied me. The offense and defense were reversed, and the aggressive aura instantly enveloped me. Xiao Shua's voice carried a suppressed gasp, "Gigi, I gave you a chance. Now, you're going to pay for your choice." I felt the danger in hindsight, and my hands instinctively struggled. The red silk that bound his eyes fell during the struggle. I finally saw the secret of the study. The study is full of paintings, and the person in each painting is me, from the age of 7 or 8 to the present, or picking flowers and fluttering butterflies, or riding horses and dancing swords, or hanging their heads in contemplation, all kinds of demeanor, vivid. Xiao Shua reached out in a panic to cover my eyes. I took his hand, slowly brought it to my lips, and kissed his finger under the witness of countless me. Husband, I am very happy. Xiao Shua kissed me on the lips tremblingly. I won't let you go again. I kissed him back. I'm not leaving. I'll be with you forever. The cloak slipped off, the garment was torn, and the wheezing sound turned into a broken whimper, buried in the snow. 14. My former boudoir was a close friend, and I couldn't get out of bed after 3 days in the cave room. At the time, I laughed at her. Why are you so tired? It's not like I haven't seen the fire avoidance diagram. You're still too weak. I told you to learn archery and horseback riding with me, but you didn't listen. She blushed and nodded my forehead. You just talk about it. Now that I've done it myself, I finally know how hard it is. When I woke up in the morning, I couldn't even lift a finger. Xiao Shua personally helped me get dressed and carried me back to the main room. The maids watched all the way, and I shyly pulled up the hat of my cloak to cover my face. Xiao Shua's chest shook and he chuckled. Now you know how to be shy, I said stiffly. It's not that I'm shy, it's just that my face is a little cold when it's exposed. After that, he quickly changed the subject. Speaking of which, when did you, tempted by me? I've been curious about this question for a long time. Xiao Shua put me on a chair, helped me take off my cloak, and poured me another cup of hot tea. He seemed particularly keen to do these things for me himself. I took his hand. Just let the maids do these things. Xiao Shua paused and said, Gigi, I want to do everything about you myself. You haven't answered me yet. I poked him. Xiao Shua smiled. Does Gigi remember the first time we met? I tilted my head and thought for a moment. 3 years ago. You came back from the palace for the first time for the Halloween. No, it was 12 years ago when you came to the palace to escape the heat. Xiao Shua slowly spoke. That day, I went to the back kitchen to steal snacks to eat. And after I was discovered, I was beaten badly, and you passed by to save me. My eyes widened. Ah, you're that little eunuch. At that time, I went to the palace with the queen to escape the summer, and played crazy with Pei Ziheng in the palace every day. When I was 7 or 8 years old, I liked to read scripts, and I always felt that I was a chivalrous woman. So when I encountered that group of people bullying Xiao Shua, I immediately stood up and hero save beauty. It was he dressed in tatters, and I thought he was a little eunuch in the palace. I felt sorry for him and gave him a lot of clothes and food. I saw that he was literate and gave him a lot of books. Later, every year when I went to the palace, I would visit him, send him something, and sometimes talk to him. After 3 or 4 years of this, when I was 12 years old, the queen suddenly stopped going to the palace. Naturally, I never went again. After another 3 years, on the Wanshou festival, the emperor took the 3 princes back to the palace. I saw him at the birthday banquet on the birthday of the People's Day, but I didn't recognize him, thinking that it was the first time I saw him. Later, I could see him at the palace banquet, but my mind was on the prince, so naturally I didn't care about it. It turned out that in a place I couldn't see, for so long, Xiao Shua had been silently watching me. No wonder when I fell into the water, he was the first to react and jumped into the lake to save people. Will Gigi be afraid? Xiao Shua asked in a low voice. Afraid of what? I looked at him puzzled. Xiao Shua chuckled. It's nothing, that's right. I finally remembered that I had a big secret to tell Xiao Shua. The crown prince is not born to the emperor. 15. I wrote down all the details I could remember and gave them to him. Although this is a dream, many things in the dream have been verified one by one later. So you must believe me and take precautions as soon as possible. I was afraid that Xiao Shua would not believe me, so I repeatedly emphasized to him. Xiao Shua looked at me with heavy eyes. I naturally believe in you. But there are some details that may be slightly different, such as I remember that the first time the prince shot at you in my dream was after you got married. But in reality, the prince's first shot was on the Yuan festival. I frowned and thought, my fingers tapping lightly on the table, why did the prince suddenly attack you? Xiao Shua raised his eyebrows. Probably because of my bet with Pei Ziheng. What the hell did you bet then? He said that I can't do anything, and I don't deserve you. Race with me on horseback, and if he loses, he will be ordained. and if I lose, he will take the initiative to quit your family. When I won him, the prince noticed me. Perhaps because he found out that I had been showing weakness all these years. He was such a calm person, and he was humiliated several times by Pei Ziheng and never resisted. But he exposed himself in advance for me. Fool, why are you betting with him? It's not worth it. I put my arms around his waist and leaned my head up, and the faint aroma of bitter cypress came. It's worth it. Xiao Shua stroked the top of my hair. I'm afraid that one day if it reaches your ears and says that I don't even dare to fight, you will be disappointed. 16. After getting married, Xiao Shua became busier and busier, but I saw that there was a hidden spirit between his eyebrows and eyes, and he should be more and more valued by the emperor. And I found that there is a secret passage between the Three Princes Mansion and the Guogong Mansion. Xiao Shuo often went to the Guogong Mansion to find his brother through the secret passage at night, but he refused to tell me where the entrance was. But no matter how busy he is, he will definitely find time to spend with me, as long as he is in the house. Even if he is dealing with official business, he will take me with him. Everything was perfect, except for the day when I sometimes dreamed of Xiao Shua being pierced through the heart by 10,000 arrows. I often woke up crying from my dreams, and then I was hugged by the person next to me and told me that he was okay. In July, I received a message from Pei Ziheng. He's about to celebrate his birthday, so he's inviting me to get together. When Xiao Shua came back at noon, I informed Xiao Shua of the matter. I told you last time that Pei Ziheng later turned against the prince in the dream and died a miserable death. If you can turn him against him, it will be good for him and us. Xiao Shua pulled my sideburns behind my ears and looked at him. Gigi, you don't have to think about this. His grudges with me, the power of the Pei family, have nothing to do with you. The only thing you have to think about is whether you want to see him or not. Husband, you're so nice. I hugged him with emotion. I have been friends with Xiao Pei since childhood, although he should be punished, but his sin will not lead to death. Xiao Shua lowered his eyes and didn't say anything. Just hugged me and kissed me for a long time before letting me go out. I looked at the red, swollen and moist lips in the bronze mirror, and I didn't know if Xiao Shua did it on purpose. For a while, walking into Pei's mansion and seeing a group of old friends, I actually felt like a world away. It seems that since I married Xiao Shua, I haven't gone out alone. Xiao Shua tossed and turned late every night, causing me to sleep until 3 o'clock in the morning, and he came back soon after waking up. I stuck with him every day, and most of the year passed. Everyone came forward to talk to me, and several princesses even pulled me to call me third sister-in-law affectionately. From their attitudes, I vaguely guessed the situation in the court now. I heard before that the second prince had been imprisoned a few days ago, and the crown prince had also been reprimanded several times. I didn't expect Xiao Shua to gain a firm foothold in the court in such a short time. No wonder the elder brother chose him. I walked while thinking, and as soon as I looked up, I saw Pei Ziheng. Shang Yuan Festival said goodbye unhappily, and when I saw him again, he lost a lot of weight, and there was a sadness between his eyebrows. Neither of us spoke first. In the middle of the day, he handed me a piece of pine nut candy, which was my favorite snack with him when I was a child. The sweetness of the pine nut candy melted in my mouth, and I decided to break the ice. I put the inkstone I picked myself into his arms, and said firmly, in the future, you should also take care of yourself, study hard, and do something serious. Pei Ziheng stared at my lips for a long time, and suddenly spoke. Gigi, how is he treating you? Nature is good. When did it start? Pei Ziheng was a little depressed. What? You are with the three princes. When did you start to be in love? Pei Ziheng gritted his teeth in the last 4 words. That's a long story. I gave him a blank look. You also inquire about this kind of trivial matter between husband and wife. Gigi, he's not as good as you think. I'll show you. As he spoke, he couldn't help but pull me to the firewood room. There was an old eunuch locked up in the firewood room. You think he's liked you since he was a kid? No, he knew from the beginning that you were Miss Guogongfu, and he deliberately approached you. Pei Ziheng pointed at the eunuch and shouted, you come. 17. The eunuch trembled and began to speak. He is a eunuch who is in charge of the kitchen from the front palace, and in his narrative, the scene where Xiao Shuo was bullied in the palace was directed and acted by him. He has not only acted in front of me, but also in front of others. After all, at that time, I was not the only daughter of a family in the palace, but also other daughters, and even other childless concubines, but I was the only one who helped him. Pei Ziheng threw me another codex, and I recognized it as Xiao Shuo's handwriting at a glance. The codex should span a large period of time, and the handwriting ranges from immature to mature. There are piles and piles in it, all of which are recorded my likes and dislikes, clothing, food, housing, transportation, aesthetic tastes, all aspects, no matter how big or small, even who I befriended was carefully written. Before I could calm down, Pei Ziheng threw me another book. This book is not Xiao Shuo's handwriting, but it is my daily note. The more I flipped through it, the more frightened I became. This daily life note, a detailed record of when I got up every day, who I saw, what I said, and even which dish I moved a few more chopsticks during the meal. Gigi, Xiao Shuo, he's a madman at all. Do you know how many homes he has raided and how many people he has killed in the past few months? Do you know how many kinds of torture he has done to extract confessions when he works in the criminal department now? You know what? Xiao Shuo has been watching you. Pei Ziheng suddenly hooked the corners of his mouth in despair. Maybe what I just said here has already reached Xiao Shuo's ears. As if to confirm Pei Ziheng's words, the door of the firewood room was broken open with a clang, and the guards lined up in 2 columns in front of the door. Xiao Shuo put his hands behind his back and walked towards me step by step. 18. Xiao Shuo still had a gentle smile on his face, but his eyes were dyed with a bit of flock madness. He stopped a foot in front of me, stretched out his hand to me, and whispered, "Gigi, it's not too early. I'll take you home." Every time he coaxed me, he was in this tone, and at the moment he was even more gentle, so gentle that I was a little scared. I involuntarily took half a step back. Xiao Shuo's face immediately changed, and he stretched out his long arms, grabbed my shoulders, and imprisoned me in his arms. Pei Ziheng wanted to step forward, but Xiao Shuo raised his hand and fanned the person aside, and the 2 guards quickly pressed him to the ground. Xiao Shuo stepped on Pei Ziheng's face and looked at Pei Ziheng condescendingly. "Your subordinates are defeated. How can you be brave?" Someone came, surrounded Pei's mansion. "A cadre of people and others will be sent to Dali Temple." After speaking, he hugged me tightly and left Pei's mansion. Xiao Shuo's expression was cold, as if he had changed back to the person in his previous life. He put me in the carriage and stared at me and threatened to, "Gigi, you go home obediently. Don't play tricks, otherwise, I don't know what I'd do." I was silent and lowered the curtain, blocking his view. I suddenly remembered that the day after I got married, he asked me if I was afraid, and it turned out that I should be here. The thought of him sending someone to spy on me all the time, and making a living note, made my skin.
But said coldly, "How can the imperial brother be willing to release people?" The prince supported himself with his hands, and his posture was leisurely. "Then you kneel down first and beg for solitude." Xiao Shuo knelt very simply. "Sure enough, it's a cheap seed. And if you say you kneel, you kneel." The prince sneered and suddenly smashed the teacup. "But you are such a cheap species, and my father thinks so highly of you." "Why?" Xiao Shuo's back straightened, and he didn't pay attention to it, and only asked him, "What other conditions does the imperial brother have?" The prince glanced at me and quickly calmed down. "Third brother, you hand over the things in your hand, and Lone let her go." "Yes, the thing is on me. You release the person first." The prince raised his eyebrows, probably not expecting Xiao Shuo to bring evidence about his background with him. "The third brother is really lustful, and he cares about it. Haven't you thought that since the thing is on you, Lone can kill you too directly? Brother Huang just wants evidence about your background. Since the things are in hand, it will not be good for you to kill Gigi." Xiao Shuo's expression was calm. "As for me, the imperial brother will kill me anyway." "Good, good, good." The prince laughed. "I didn't expect our family to raise a love breed that is not afraid of death. Lone has changed his mind. Lone not only wants to kill you, but Lone will also put this crime of confusing the dragon vein on your head." The life of the third prince was broken by Lone. and he wanted to kill Lone, but Lone shot him in this courtyard. Third brother, what do you think of this ending? With that, the prince raised his hand, and many archers suddenly appeared on the surrounding walls. Everything in front of me began to overlap with the scenes of the previous life. Great fear gripped my heart. Don't. I got up to leave, but the sword immediately cut through the skin around my neck, and blood flowed down the sword. 22. Xiao Shua and the crown prince shouted at the same time, "Don't move." I instantly understood that the prince did not want to kill me unless absolutely necessary. Killing me is tantamount to making you an enemy of the government of the same country. I turned my head to look at the prince. Your Royal Highness the Prince. If you insist on killing him, Gigi will kill himself immediately, with his kung fu. If you don't have to worry about me, you will definitely be able to escape, and then you will still be empty. Gigi, you threaten me. Anger rose in the prince's eyes. You didn't want to reconcile with him just now, and now you killed him. Isn't it just 100 of father is like this, and so are you? What point is lonely that is not as good as this cheap species? Okay. You have to be a pair of hard-working mandarin ducks with him, and you will be fulfilled alone. With that, he violently pulled me up and threw me into the yard. Xiao Shua immediately got up and caught me. I really hugged the person in front of me. And I felt a little more grounded in my heart. Since God wants me to do it all over again, it doesn't mean that I want to repeat the mistakes of the past. There must be something else that can be done. My heart was anxious. My brain was spinning rapidly. But Xiao Shua was still calm. He looked down at me fixedly, and asked in a low voice, "Since you want to be reconciled with me, what are you doing now that you are coming to die?" And sure enough, he heard it. But when is this time? He still has the heart to think about this. Forget it. We were still misunderstanding each other before we died in our last life. So let's make it clear first in this life. You were there in the beginning. Do you hear that? Xiao Shua looked at me coldly and didn't say anything. I can only explain to myself. Whoever wants to reconcile and leave you is to blame him. You don't want to be separated from me. Xiao Shua looked strange, as if he couldn't believe it. I looked up at him. I said I'd always be with you. Head dash Xiao Shua chuckled. Gigi, have you really figured it out? Do you know who I am? Pei Ziheng is right. I am indeed not a good person. Xiao Shua lowered his eyes. His expression was obscure, and his hot palm suddenly pressed against the back of my neck, and his calloused thumb gently stroked the wound on my neck. Shh. I spent most of my life in a dark mire, and the first time I saw you, I wanted to pull you into the mire and sink with me. I am watching you in the dark, where no one knows, and I try my best to pretend to be as you like, and approach you. In order to marry you, I will do everything I can. I want you to feel sorry for me. I want you to cry for me. I shuddered with joy that you came to my death. I'm jealous of everyone who takes away your attention. I want to monopolize you. I want to hide you. I'm pretending to be gentle, and I'm jealous that you're in love with my mask. I'm nervous that you'll find out what I look like, and I can't help but want you to see me. Now you see, the real me, mean, greedy, twisted, jealous. Gigi. Xiao Shua let go of me, put his blood-stained fingers in his mouth and tasted it, his expression becoming more and more frenzied. Are you sure you want to die with a madman like me? My mind went blank before I blinked. Are you going to hurt me? I'll probably kill myself before I hurt you. I continued to ask. Will you hurt my family? As long as they don't hurt you, I won't do anything to them. One last question. Are you sincere to me? Xiao Shua took my hand and put it on his chest, and chuckled. Dig it out and show it to Gigi. Okay. I looked at the look as if I was really thinking about cutting my heart out. Xiao Shua. I opened my mouth and called him. He glanced at me, panic and trepidation hidden in his crazy gaze. The next moment, he lowered his eyes and collected all his emotions. He is waiting for my trial. 23. On the way to be kidnapped just now, I actually understood my own intentions. He is mean, greedy, twisted, and jealous, but he loves me. I loved until I restrained my life in my last life, and in the end I had to protect me with my life. I love so much that even if I misunderstand that I want to hurt him, he is reluctant to hurt me. A point. Love to hide my true nature, to give up my original appearance for me. Love so much that even a dull person like me can be burned by his love, and, for some reason, the way he looks now makes my blood a little restless. Xiao Shua, I find that compared to the gentle and elegant young man, the way you look now makes me feel more excited. What to do? I seem to like you more. I like it to the point that even if I die here with you today, I feel fulfilled. Xiao Shua raised his eyes sharply and stared at me as if he was about to devour me. It's so touching. The prince said in a weird manner, falling in love when you are dying really makes Gu very unhappy. Third brother, do you think this is good? After you die, Gu will be merciful, Na Gigi will be my good D, and personally take care of her for you. 24. Brother Huang, I'm in a good mood today, I don't want to see blood, so I'll leave you alive for the time being. As soon as the words fell, Xiao Shua hugged me and quickly retreated a few feet to the wall. The prince shouted, "Shoot the arrows." 10,000 arrows were fired at once, but they were not aimed at Xiao Shua. The arrows were inserted vertically into the soil at a foot of the prince's length, forming an arc, as if to warn the prince, if he takes one step further, he will be pierced by 10,000 arrows. The prince was shocked, only to find that in addition to his close guards, Xiao Shua's people had already been replaced around him, according to the emperor's secret order. The Prince Xiao Yan will be escorted to Dali Temple. The prince sat down on the ground in a dejected manner, and the guards stepped forward one after another. How do you know to have someone ambush here in advance? I asked Xiao Shua. Xiao Shua didn't seem to want to answer, so I asked twice before he said. Pei Ziheng said, if it is found that Xiao Pei's crime is not to death, you can spare his life. Got it, Xiao Shua said reluctantly. In my day, there were several ups and downs between life and death, all of which hung in one breath. Now that the crisis is over, my legs are so weak that I can barely stand. As soon as the curtain fell, Xiao Shua's lips covered it, turbulent, rampage, desperate kisses. I was a little dazed and thought, I was right, he was trying to devour me. The kiss lasted for a long time. I finally pushed him away, and after a while, Xiao Shua kissed him again. This time it was a gentle drizzle, lingering and tossing. When I was kissed in a trance, Xiao Shua suddenly asked me, Gigi, is that really just your dream? I'm a spirit, and I meet his eyes that see everything. Soon I decided to tell the story of rebirth. So in the last life, you fell in love with me at the last minute, and still feel guilty? I nodded hesitantly, and then hugged him tightly. In the previous life, Xiao Shua should also have the chance to win. If he doesn't save me, he will definitely become the final winner. But he did not hesitate to give up everything and willingly gave up his life. Noticing my low mood, Xiao Shua gently stroked my back. Gigi, you don't have to be like this. In the last life, I saved you just because after weighing the pros and cons, I felt that you were a little better than Jiangshan. Although he died for you, he also made you remember it for a lifetime, which is a good deal. Don't get stuck in the past. The more I listened, the more strange it became, and I looked up at him. Aren't you? Even the previous life yourself is jealous, right? So what? Xiao Shua lowered his head and held my face. His eyes were hot, and his breath was entangled. I want you to see me. I chuckled softly and kissed him again. My heart is like a gentleman's heart, and I will live up to my love. ENDS.